It's hard to contain your excitement when you get something you've really wanted. Like the gold standard in automotive protection, WeatherTech floor liners. With deep sculpted channels and laser measured for total protection in the front, back, and even up the sides.
Dad, you're going viral.
What? WeatherTech me.
So don't be shy, enjoy. Order your premium American-made products at WeatherTech.com.
Now it's time for race number 8 of the 2024 season here in the Porsche Sprint Challenge Cayman Series. I'm Joe Peak here with Ryan Marine once again. And Ryan, yesterday we saw 2 caution periods during the race. Will we be able to get away with green today?
Well, we certainly hope so. Around this beautiful VIR circuit, you see the track map there, some iconic corners, Horseshoe, Oak Tree, Hog Pen, and of course that roller coaster, Turn 14. One of the most daunting stretches of racetrack on the continent. We did see a couple of instances, Joe, yesterday of this track catching some drivers out. You mentioned those yellows, but outside of those yellows, we were treated to some really good racing. Ian Porter picked up another win in the Pro-Am class. And how about Bill Pilichowski, his first win of the season in the Masters class? A great story there. Helps vault him a little bit closer to championship contention. He came into the weekend 104 points out, but a win certainly will help his cause.
No doubt. And, well, compared to yesterday where we were in the middle of the day and the heat was definitely up, it's a little bit cooler this morning, mercifully, and it is a beautiful morning here at VIR. This incredible facility has welcomed us in and given us some great action as well as some good times here. But the drivers are now focused forward, ready to go for today's event. It's the last race of the weekend for the Porsche Caymans, and I'm sure there are going to be some drivers eager to try and make up. Michael Clark probably will be one of those. He is stopped by me earlier this morning and told me no more jinxes. So I guess it's a Disney movie now, and we don't talk about Michael Clark, at least when he's doing good. And we'll see if he can make up for what was a bit of a miserable day yesterday, unfortunately. A lot of damage on the car, but he's turned it around, and they are ready to go today as he'll actually start just on the outside of the third row. So he's positioned well ahead of Pilichowski. We see the drivers there just off to the side of that pit exit here in our beautiful drone cam shots that we've been getting all weekend. It definitely give you a sense of the sprawl of this place. It's a pretty long lap around here, Ryan.
It certainly is. This place, like we said, 17 corners, but they're spread out over 3 miles of asphalt here in Alton, Virginia. 3.25 miles basically is the distance around this place. Opened back in 1957. Went away for about 2 decades before coming back in the year 2000 and has been a staple on sports car racing calendars ever since. Drivers love coming to this place because of the challenge, because of the speed. It is a special, special venue, that's for sure.
Yeah, in spite of so much damage that we've seen all weekend, drivers have generally had all positive things to say about this place. But with them on track, why don't we go through our starting order for today's event and get us through the grid. Ian Porter on pole once again. He won from there yesterday as Nick Schaefer will be trying to stop him once more. Still looking for his first victory there from the outside of that front row. Then, as we go to row 2, it is Caroline Conda starting in a third. Also looking for that first victory, Matt Joffe going to be trying to fight for that Masters class, starting from 4th overall pole on the Masters category. Evan Hinkle has come in with a splash and shown he is quite good with his first podium last time out. He'll start from 5th position. Michael Clark will begin in the P6 spot. and see if he can have a bit of a better day today out there. Then we get into row 4. It is Lonnie Unser starting on the inside. Bill Pelichewski going to try and repeat that victory and get a streak going himself in that 62 Tang machine there in 8th position. Then we get to row number 5 here for 9th place of our series, and Jason Golan is also going to try and return to the front. Bill Fennick, Ryan, will round out our top 10 for today's race.
Let's get to row number 6. Starting in 11th, Alan Scalzo charged through the field yesterday, picked up a penalty that dropped him down the order late in the race. Roland Crines had a tough day yesterday, too, looking to bounce back from the 12th overall starting position. Both drivers in the Cayman Masters division. Then you've got Chris Hutter, one of the Pro-Am runners, had a good run yesterday, starts all the way back at 13th today, next to Goldcrest Motorsport driver Rob Traulinger. To the 8th row of the grid now, Woody Witchard will start in the 14th position next to Sean McKeag from TPC Racing. 9th row now, Jim Johnson. He picked up the Apexit Award yesterday, picking up the most positions in the race. He'll start 15th next to Rafa Martinez. Then we get to row 10, Paige Morales and Joe Rizzo in that 10th row. Paige had an incident yesterday, as did Joe, so they'll look to put that behind them here in the second race of the weekend. Row 11 belongs to Tom Kopczynski, who had a great day yesterday, moved through the field nicely next to Daniel Ammon in the Vintage Racing Company Porsche Cayman. Joseph Petkis starts back in the 12th row next to newcomer Thomas Bigany, who's coached this weekend by Catherine Legg. Then we get to the that is the back row of the grid. So with that, we let the field get lined up, and we'll be turning them loose here in just a matter of moments.
Indeed, you can see them doubled up and ready to go. Coming through Hogpen, pace car has zipped away. It is going to release them. Ian Porter will have control of the field, waiting for the call from the flag stand to start this one off. Despite it being backed up twice, he still managed to run away from them in the race yesterday, showing that incredible pace once again, racking up the wins in his first ever professional season. They come around towards the flag stand, waiting patiently for it, and there it is. They are on it. The 86 has hit the gas pedal, and the green flag is out already. They are scattering to try and find position down into Horseshoe Corner. Let's see who is able to come through clean. A big chop there from second place, trying to hold on to that P2, as I think that's Nick Schaefer trying to fend off Conda.
It was 4 wide momentarily further back in the pack, but look at this here in this rear part of the field. We got a car with some damage, I think. To the outside of the screen, that's the 77 of Hinkle, who had that great day yesterday. Something appears to be amiss. He's plummeted down to the back of the field, Joe.
Yeah, not sure. And there was also a separate incident with some debris on the track that we saw get kicked up. Did not see who it came from, though, but it was a significant piece of bodywork that got kicked around. Hopefully nobody comes away with a cut tire from that one. Porter will continue to lead them up through the S's now. Nick Schaefer giving chase. He's been hungry for that win. When can he finally get that, as Conda gives watch from third, as Matt Jaffe looks like he has slotted in to that 4th position while leading the Masters category.
Schaefer's got a lot of seat time in these Porsche Caymans in the last couple of weeks. In addition to all the testing done this week, he raced at a 4-hour IMSA GT4 race at Mid-Ohio just last weekend. In fact, it's the exact same chassis that he used last week that he's driving here today. Looked like he was keeping Porter honest in the early part of this opening lap, Joe, but right now it's Carolyn Conda, the native of France, who's closing in on that battle for second place.
Carolyn watching as they come into the braking zone, just trying to line the car up here. Not any big moves, as everybody's actually spread out pretty well here on the first lap. Not seeing a lot of battles there at the end of the back straight. Watch out for Lonnie Unser. She looks like she's getting close to the back of Pelichewski there in that orange car, who I think has actually moved up a few positions, as they'll cross the line now. And 35 minutes plus 1 lap for this event, so they got a ways to go.
Couple of changes in the Masters running order. Matt Jaffe has taken the lead in that Masters class. Michael Clark runs second. Pelichewski runs in the 3rd spot. Lonnie Unser's been shuffled down to 7th overall, sits 4th in the Pro-Am class. Has some work to do to get up to this top 3. Those are the next 3 cars in her class. It's a great battle, though, at the front of this field with Porter, Schaefer, and Conda separated by just 1 second at the stripe.
And the midfield saw a little bit of back and forth there coming through NASCAR Bend as cars dice for position. This is the slower part of the circuit before it opens up here under the bridge and into the climbing S's. It does look like Ian is starting to stretch his legs out already. Look at how many car lengths he has between himself and Schaefer. That Rafa Racing team has proven pretty diabolical at times, and already Conda is encroaching upon the number 70's rear bumper.
It's been an impressive debut season for that team, the Rafa Racing Club, of course. And they partnered up with a really good team in JDX, so that certainly has helped them prepare these cars, and they turned up at Sebring. You could tell it was a program that was pretty well sorted. They've got some bragging rights in the paddock right now, Joe, because just last night at the kart track here at VIR, there was a special go-kart race for crew members, and it was an awful close thing, but it was a podium for the JDX.
Drivers right exit of 12, car 8 preparing to continue.
JDX driver and crew chief Adam Roberts, he led most of that race, got kind of punted out of the way in the final corner. No harm, no foul.
Turn 12 is clear.
But ended up second in that race, and actually it's JTR, the team that runs Nick Schaefer, who currently sits second. They picked up the win in that karting challenge just last night.
And it was interesting when I asked teasingly if they were going to maybe make a few of the tools of the JTR team disappear. They said, we'll do our talking on the track. And boy, are they, as the 86 continues to run away. Last time it was about 1.2 seconds that he has put over Nick Schaefer. But they continue to spread out. That 8 car that we heard Race Control mentioning off, that was Tom Kopczynski, who sounds like he's getting back on his way, but maybe not repeating the heroics we saw of yesterday.
Yeah, that's too bad. He had a really good day. Actually just lost, I think it was the 6th spot on the final lap to Michael Clark yesterday as Michael was coming from the back of the field. It was a really strong day for Tom, who's coached by Eric Filgaris. And I spoke with the two of them a little bit after the race, and they were thrilled with the way that race had played out. But looks like, and we don't know the whole story here, but a bit more difficult of a run in race 2 of the weekend for Tom.
Coming off of Oak Tree Corner now, this is one of those important turns where it has the longest straight of the track afterwards, so everybody trying to line up the car to really accelerate away. And as they fly down that long stretch, it does look like Clark is still trying to keep up with Matt Jaffe, but Matt's putting some distance between he and the number 17. And how about Bill Pelichewski, still looking at another potential podium here, sitting in 3rd.
Matt Jaffe, you talk about him, and he's running a partial schedule this year. Did not race at Circuit of the Americas, but did win the season opener, race 1 at Sebring all the way back in March. The second-place finish from pole yesterday, just his second podium on the season. It's been an up-and-down campaign in the races that he has run, but right now he's in firm control of the Masters class, keeping the points leader Michael Clark at bay. But in the meantime, Ian Porter continues to extend that lead. He's just reset the race's fastest lap at a 1:53.3. That's 7/10 clear of the pursuing Nick Schaefer.
Well, I'm reaching back and knocking on our wooden table behind us, but we have 5 minutes and no caution flag so far. This is looking much cleaner than what we saw in the first race. And in fact, incredibly single file. I'm not sure if the drivers had a little bit of a chat with some of the race control afterwards and looking for a bit of a cleaner run today. But whatever the difference is, it certainly is a stark contrast to what we witnessed before. Now, we've been talking a lot about Ian Porter and the impressiveness of his speed. The main reason is because we have to remember this is a guy that had done a few club races and things such as that, but hadn't really raced professionally until he got in the car at Sebring to start this series and won his first race leading every single lap and has then racked up numerous wins since then. In fact, his background wasn't really racing coming into this. He was a world champion in Call of Duty, of all things, but was an avid sim racer, and his leap over to the real world has left a few people paying attention now.
You might know him better in the Call of Duty world as Crim 6. That was the alias he played under for many, many years, won those 3 world championships in Call of Duty competition, but always had an interest in motorsports. Did some esports competitions on the sim racing side of things, but got the chance to jump aboard this car for the Rafa Racing by JDX team and has impressed. You said a number of wins. I'll give you the number. It's 5. He's got 5 wins in this rookie campaign. The only 2 races in which he has not won, he finished second, and those were the 2 races at Barber Motorsports Park. So it's a guy who's used to winning, if you look at his esports career on the Call of Duty side of things, and that mentality certainly has carried over, plus some natural talent, too, that has had him at the front of this pack regularly this year.
Looking at those top 3, it seems like they are really putting some distance on Joffe behind them. The good news for Joffe is, again, he is the leader in the Masters class, so he doesn't need to worry about them getting away too much here. It's about 7 seconds from Carolyn down to Matt. Michael Clark, definitely the bigger concern at this stage, as he's about 2 seconds behind Matt Joffe, and trying to keep him in touch so that he doesn't run too far away, especially this early in the race, because maybe he could be preserving the car a little bit, just trying to hold on to that rubber, but even if you have some extra pace at the end, you have to try and catch and then pass your rival.
You talked about the conditions earlier, Joe, and they are about as perfect can be. 71 degrees, sunny skies. You do have some humidity, so that heavy air should be creating a little bit more downforce for these cars in the high-speed sections. The engines might not like it quite so much, but that said, these are just about optimal conditions to get some lap time and to keep those tires in good condition as well. As we go back on board, Carolyn Conda here continuing to chase Nick Schaefer. Conda's been a podium machine this season, but looking for that first win. We think it's going to happen at some point this season.
Exit of turn 12, car 85 and 83 are involved. I'm sorry, that's 85 and 88.
So that would be Rafa Martinez. The 88, though, is Jim Johnson. Yeah. I think I see a bit of bodywork still left at the side of the track. And Jim is pulling into the South Paddock pits, which they don't use for this weekend. So I think he's trying to get out of the way, and I believe Rafa is looking to do the same, just trying to keep from causing another yellow. And, yeah, I can see the damage flapping around on the left front, so it is significant for both of them.
Oh, that's really tough to see. Rafa had a really good weekend, as had Jim. We talked about him winning the Apex Award yesterday.
14 involving cars 8 and 34.
Oh, wow. Okay, so my knocking on wood did not work. That's Kopczynski, who had an incident. The 34 is Sean McCaig. Both of them off at the runoff of Roller Coaster, which is turn 14. It looks like they got away a little bit better.
Both cars from 14 have continued.
Well, glad to see that is not going to cause a full course caution here. And can't see where those cars went, but I imagine they found a way to kind of park them and tuck them off safely in the South Paddock. So have at least 2 fewer cars in this field now. Oh, and we did not avoid it. We have a full course yellow.
Safety car speed, please.
Interesting stuff. Wonder if that is for the debris that we saw on the outside of the corner.
There you go. Fluid down the backstretch is the call for race control. I think maybe one of the cars that drove away was leaking something, and that's going to need to be attended to before we can turn the cars loose once again. That gives everyone a chance to slow down, catch their breath a little bit, and erases the lead that Ian Porter had built over Nick Schaefer.
Services is going to have a look at the surface around the racetrack for the potential of fluid.
So from what I saw, as the 34 comes in with a fair bit of damage, so McCaig is going to get that car looked at, see if they can send it back out, but he will lose a lap. There is the base car picking up Ian Porter. So let's see if we can spot what our marshals have seen from up above here. And I don't see anything particularly obvious. From what I saw, it seemed like Rafa was mostly off the circuit when he was going back. So if it did come from a car and they say it's on the backstretch, I would guess that Jim Johnson dropped it.
I think you might be right. I did see Jim limping around. He did not come into the pits on that last lap. So it's certainly a possibility. Boy, tough one for a couple of these drivers that were looking to have another strong day here today, and it comes at a crucial juncture in the season. We've reached the halfway point, remarkably. 7 races complete. We're working the 8th of the year, 14 scheduled, with trips still to come to Watkins Glen, Elkhart Lake, and then the season finale out at Sonoma. And it strikes me, Joe, this calendar this year, you hit pretty much all the high points on the North American continent, the different options you could go to when you're talking about Sebring and Barber and Coda here at VIR, Watkins Glen, Elkhart Lake at Road America, and then Sonoma to wrap things up. There aren't too many that this series does not go to at one point or another.
For being an entry tier on the Porsche ladder, that they always like to talk about. They definitely have a who's who of tracks that they are visiting. So, yeah, it's been fantastic. And the drivers seem to have been loving it as well, hearing mostly positive things about the various circuits we've been getting to. I wondered about Scalzo here. I saw that he was scored at 23rd, and he's in pit lane, and they're not really rushing around the car, which is not a good sign. Because if they don't think they can do anything to get it back out there, well, is there damage on the left front, actually?
Might have been. He was in the wars yesterday. Of course, came into this weekend 3rd in points, and it did not go well yesterday. Finished 12th. There is that damage on the left front. Good spot there, Joe. And if you see that there, that's right in front of the wheel well. Maybe there was some wheel contact that could do some damage to suspension, to the wheel itself. In any event, it does not look like Alan will be taking further part in today's activities with just 20 minutes to go.
So that is oil dry and some definite oil. I mean, even outside of the oil dry, you could see it pulling up. So maybe it was from Scalzo, actually, that was dropping those fluids. If he made his way back to pit lane. So it's all kind of piecing together from the little bits that we're getting from what's happening out on the track. And that makes me wonder if, so we're seeing, yeah, there is the leak. It is actually coming out right now.
Yeah, the radiator is located right there on these Cayman, so I think there has been that contact. That's been punctured, and there you go. That finally, I think, is that mystery solved.
Well, if it's the radiator, hopefully, if that's just water, that shouldn't be an issue. They shouldn't need to clean up the fluids on the backstretch, I would think, right? But if it's oil, then yes, we are definitely going to be needing to get that fixed up because that is a very fast portion of the track. But no, I kind of wonder. I was trying to say that I wonder if Scalzo was involved in the accident and it just wasn't reported at the time. He got that damage from somewhere. The only other way that could happen is if he clipped a wall that we hadn't seen, but usually you don't just have a little bit of a tick on the one side of the car. Usually the whole thing is buckled in.
Another update on a driver involved in that, or one of the incidents. There were several. Jim Johnson did just come into the pits. I saw him trundle through a moment ago. Coming off of his best result of the season yesterday. Finished 4th just off the podium.
Turn 12 will be reviewed post-race.
So it sounds like they're going to take a look at what happened out there after the race.
Yeah, that would have been the Johnson-Martinez incident, 88 and 85. So race control waiting to get more views of the incident before passing down judgment.
Yeah, both the cars compromised or out of the race. Makes sense that their focus will be on the race itself here, and they'll have the time to really go over that in a bit. Does look like lights are still flashing on the pace car from what we can see on the drone shot here. So not quite ready to go yet. However, they have until the backstretch to decide to turn those lights off and send them off racing once again. Still have a little less than 20 minutes plus 1 lap to go. So there is time to get back to green.
Safety car lights out. You are in this time.
There we go.
In this time. Lights out, please.
Lights going out. We are going to go racing. So that is great news. Quick cleanup, and off we go. Now, what can Nick Schaefer do here, Ryan? I kind of wonder if this is his best opportunity to try and pull an attack down into turn 1 and see if he could finally get that track position.
Well, definitely he'll be thinking about it. We know he's motivated to try and get that first win. He's not been at this game very long, just some club racing over the last couple of years, jumped to the pro ranks here in Porsche Sprint Challenge this year. Also has been running in IMSA's second division in the GT4 car over there, and has had some good pace there. It was interesting talking to Riley Dickinson yesterday, who was racing against Nick at Mid-Ohio last weekend and saw his name pop up on the results sheets after practice and qualifying. Thought, who is this guy? And quite frankly, that was our response too when he popped into this paddock and instantly was running at the front. He's been remarkably quick given his relative lack of experience. And he knows it's time to go, time to get it done now, because he's about to leave the country for 2 years to go on a church mission trip to Ecuador next month. He's got a couple races between now and then, and he would desperately like to get a race win under his belt.
Let's see if he can do it here. This might be the best chance that he's going to get, especially since we've seen Ian still has pace over him. Oh, it's a poor start, though, from Nick Schaefer as they get the green flag and fly past us. I think Carolyn is going to be able to take that second place away by the time they get down into turn one. And indeed, she is already ahead by the braking zone. Nick tries to fight back around the outside, but he can't get the position away. Meanwhile, Matt Joffe also close behind them, trying to keep Michael Clark from taking advantage.
Schaefer did cross back over on Conda, goes side by side, and takes the spot back. How about that? A poor restart. He loses second place, but then is able to counterattack in that first sequence of corners. It is back to the second spot. However, it has cost him a ton of time relative to Porter, who has sprinted off into the horizon.
So we hop on board with Carolyn now, back into third place, seeing that familiar black and white rear bumper of Nick Schaefer. Kind of an unassuming, I wouldn't say quiet guy, but not very boastful considering what he's achieved in such a short time. Look at them have to wheel these cars as that wheel was definitely sawing back and forth a bit for the French driver.
The team was telling me she is super intense behind the wheel. She's getting used to having a spotter. That's not something she dealt with at all in her touring car races in Europe last year. But she apparently was asked, hey, did you hear us when we were calling you clear? And she said, no, I had no idea you were talking to me. Such is her focus. And look, the team is loving working with her. She won a shootout to get in this seat and has been really impressive in her transition to a rear-wheel drive format after racing front-wheel drive touring cars over the past few years.
Behind them, you could see Joffe and Clark relatively close, but it looks like Matt has got himself a couple car lengths to try and defend and hold on to lead in the Masters. Bill Pelichewski still running in third. We'll see if he is as he comes past us once more, or if that has changed. Yes, he is still in P3 here, being chased by Lonnie Unser, trying to get a few more podium finishes herself in this season. She's always been kind of hovering around there, just off of it. I think she has a number of fourth places, if I can check here.
Yeah, Lonnie got her first podium at Circuit of the Americas, but to your point, has finished fourth on 4 occasions this season, including yesterday, which I'm sure sticks in her craw a little bit. Right now, she's stuck behind some out-of-class traffic, though. Good to have her back in this series. She was with us in the broadcast booth a lot of the time last year, but it's good to see Lonnie back behind the wheel of a race car. Just good to see an Unser in a racing field, right? Of course, part of that famous Unser Racing family that has amassed 9 Indy 500 wins over the years between Big Al, Bobby, and Al Unser Jr.
Yeah, I'm sure that is a bit of weight always in the back of her mind, but she has stepped up the plate quite well, especially in this series, putting in solid results. Look at Conda. She's still kind of being a threat to Nick there for that second place, staying right with him, having lost that position back early in the first restart of this race. Don't think she's quite close enough down Madison Avenue to try anything quite yet, but all it takes is a little slip up from Schaefer.
One other thing the team has told me about Carolyn is they're working with her to be a little more ruthless. She's very, very giving when it comes to making sure that everyone has room in a corner to make it through safely. And that's a good thing. There's no question about it. But at a certain point, a little bit of aggression is going to be necessary, especially as she starts to race at the front a bit more. Right now, she timed that run really well out of Hogpen, Joe. It looks to me like she's closing in on Schaefer once again in this battle for second place.
Well, she's a diminutive person. Let's see if she can throw her weight around this time and try to get in there. No, she's not going to try and stick her nose in down into turn one, despite being very close. That kind of surprises me that she isn't as aggressive, because touring car racing is known for having to get your elbows out.
I had the same thought. She finished third in European Touring Car Championship last year. It did a really nice job there. Then, of course, got that chance to drive in the shootout at Circuit of the Americas last fall to put this program together with the Rafa Racing Club. But, yeah, that did come as a bit of a surprise to me, too, knowing that the touring car ranks are kind of known for being no holds barred. Yet, despite the fact that maybe that's not her style, she still was quite successful there. And it's all part of the learning process. A lot of these drivers here at the front of this field, Ian Porter, Nick Schaefer, and Carolyn Conda, they all aspire to pursuing motorsports at a higher level. Carolyn, for instance, has told me she dreams of racing at Le Mans. That's her hometown race in France. Of course, going on right now here this weekend. I'm sure she's got one eye on that all weekend long here, too.
Yeah, those who follow the Porsche socials, as they tweeted, they're still in contention for the win, but last I saw on it, they're not quite on the podium. We'll see if they can make that step up out of fourth place. Carolyn a little bit farther back this time, coming down into the roller coaster. So no chance here, but she was strongest out of Hogpen and saw her get within about a car length of that number 70 up into Horseshoe. If she could repeat that, she could get another shot at it. We're coming down to close to 10 minutes left to go, so it's getting to be go time for her as Lonnie Unser. Now, that is Bill Pelichowski in that orange car in front of her, so that's not for position in class, but it is for overall if she wants to try and catch up to the podium here. Down into the first turn, though, still no change between P2 and P3.
Keeping an eye on the battle in the Masters division as well. Matt Jaffe has started to build his gap over Michael Clark. It's now 1.5 seconds. Jaffe just turned his fastest lap of the race, running a 154.5. That's on the pace of Schaefer and Conda at this point. So Matt doing a really nice job there, running fourth overall, but leading in his class, trying to pick up his second win of the season.
And right now he's positioned well for that. He's got about a second and a half over Clark currently. But again, this track seems to promote mistakes quite easily, so he's going to have to mind himself to make sure that he stays on the island for the remainder of this race. Speaking of gaps, I mean, look at that between Ian and Nick. At the line, it was marked at 2.4 seconds, but I think he's continuing to stretch that out at almost every corner.
It's been fun to watch him this season learning this craft, because he's been fast from the word go, and what's impressed me is how quickly he's picked up the racecraft too. In the rare occasion that he's found himself back in traffic, he hasn't looked uncomfortable at all. He's been able to make his way forward, the two runner-up finishes at Barber notwithstanding. And I think you had a conversation with him earlier in the weekend, Joe. He was kicking himself a little bit. He thought those could have been wins too.
He considered those, I wouldn't say a failure. I'll try to remember the exact words that he used for it, but they were a blemish to him. It was kind of amazing. Most drivers, especially in their first ever professional season, would say, oh, second place is still fantastic, especially if that's your worst result of the season. But there has been a bit of an attitude change from when he first came in. He's always been confident, but there is a little bit of a sense of a slight more humility to when you talk to him now, that he's kind of been in the car, and also he's had some accidents now. So I think having the physical aspect of it kind of be reminded, I think also kind of showed him what real racing has different from sim racing.
It hits a little different in the real world, doesn't it? No reset button here. But he knows that, of course. And look, his pace has been stellar all throughout the course of this season. Can't wait to see what the future holds for Ian Porter, who has aspirations of getting to the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship one day, racing in the World Endurance Championship potentially one day. And the beauty of the Porsche pyramid is you could stay with one brand and go all the way from single make racing here in Sprint Challenge to the very top. And a guy like Matt Campbell, who's racing today for Porsche Penske at Le Mans, the perfect example of it. Started off in a series very much like this one in Australia, made his way up through the ranks into GT4, into GT3, ultimately to the prototypes, and even got himself a Formula E rookie test earlier this year. So all within that Porsche pyramid, you can make your way from club-level racing to the highest echelons of sports car racing and even a single-seater world championship like Formula E.
Just kind of looking through our order here. We've spent a lot of time watching this battle for second and third in the Pro-Am. Down in the Masters, it looks like fifth and sixth between Trollinger and Finnick was only about half a second apart at the line. I'm sure Bill is all worked up behind the wheel trying to see if he can catch up to Rob.
Bill worked up? Are you kidding? He is a bundle of energy, that's for sure. He's a live wire. And, man, you can't wipe the smile off of his face. He had a bit of a disappointing day yesterday, picked up a little bit of damage, didn't get the results he was looking for. And yet, that vibrant white smile of his, you could see it from the moon, I think, as he was walking around after yesterday's race.
And, in fact, I think he was in front. Yeah, oh, wow. Okay, so Trollinger must have had a bad lap because he got shuffled down to 13th overall. Finnick now up into 11th ahead of Woody Witchard, actually. 2 positions for the Goldcrest Motorsport 94 have gone away.
Well, that's big there for Bill Finnick now. He's up into 6th in class as he continues to learn this craft. Woody Witchard having a nice strong day up into the 12th spot overall, 7th in the Masters class at the moment.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to see a whole lot of Woody, but he has been there for every race, and his best finish so far is a 9th position 3 times, both at Sebring and then the last time out at COTA. But I'm sure he'd love to try and do a little better. He's on course for getting that today if he can just hold out for another 5 minutes plus 1 lap.
Especially if he could do it here. He was 5th yesterday and a couple positions behind that. But he's from Greenville, just down the road in North Carolina. We're right on the border with North Carolina where this track is located here in Southern Virginia. So Greenville, I mean, some people fly into Greenville when they come here. This is very much his home track, so Woody Witchard certainly looking to have a strong showing here on home turf.
Yeah, whenever we say that something is close to the border, you know, that's always relative. And I didn't realize how close until you get here and you drive out of Virginia into North Carolina and then back into Virginia just to get to the track. There's no way in other than to cross state lines. Looks like that was very close for Conda at first coming down the main straight, but she just can't seem to make that leap to try and get close enough to attack. We haven't really seen her get her nose in there recently, Ryan.
No, we haven't, and credit to Schaefer, who has been picture perfect since he had the little slip up a couple of laps ago in roller coaster that allowed Conda to get a run, but since then he's not made the error that would open the door for Carolyn. You could see just how hard she's working. And Nick, too, the body language of that car, he's got to fight it here at this stage. It's twitching around under him. And this is the section of the track where these cars really just dance. Coming up through the high-speed S's, that elevation change, you could see the suspension unload and then pop right back down onto the track surface. It's a spectacular place to watch from, especially these Caymans, which don't make a ton of downforce. And so they're really on the ragged edge of adhesion.
Well, they continued to lose the gap up to Ian, who is now up to 3.2. There you can see on your screen visibly how far he's stretched away. It has been a battle for best of the rest. Can Rafa get a 1-2 on this one? Or is Carolyn going to be stuck holding on to another third place as they carry on for, I think we're down to maybe about 3 laps to go here when we cross the line?
I think that's right. I was looking when they crossed the line last time, and I think that's what we're looking at, about 3 laps to go, plus the rest of this one here as we're in the final 3.5 minutes. But remember, it's 3.5 minutes plus 1 lap, and if there's any time left on the clock, then we go around one more time, and it'll be the white flag next time by. So let's keep that in mind as Porter crosses the line with 3:13 to go. So I do believe we'll see 3 more laps from this point here. So plenty of time for Carolyn. She's been working on this move for the better part of 2 days, Joe. This looks a lot like yesterday.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's becoming an all too familiar position for her. They've got a lot of time racing each other, not just this weekend, but all season long. Look at them slide there through NASCAR Bend up into the left hook. She's a lot closer this time. Actually almost gets some overlap that time down through the left-hander. This leads into the single file snake section of the track, but a great exit from Nick. Look at him run away.
It's a tough place to make a pass back there. Carolyn had the edge, but couldn't get the overlap completely, so had to settle back in line, and then Schaefer just timed that run perfectly into Snake. And then here in the climbing S's, but watch as Carolyn closes back in. This is going to be interesting. This is a passing zone potentially down here at Oak Tree.
It's a difficult one. You definitely need good presentation. She doesn't have it that time. They stay within about a car length apart from one another as they come on to the back stretch. It looks decent. I'm not sure that the slipstream has really done a whole lot for these cars this weekend. So while she does close in a bit, I think it's not going to be there for her by the time they reach the brake zone. Here's that shot coming down into the braking little left-hand kink before it dips to the right and literally dips down, dropping away from the drivers, plunging downhill, hence the name roller coaster, before eventually it reaches Hogpen.
This is Hogpen right here, crucial corner as it sets up the run onto the 3,000-foot-long pit straightaway. Just a couple of laps to go here. We've got 1 minute 20 on the clock as Porter crosses the line, so it will be this lap and one more for Ian Porter as he looks to pick up his 6th win of the season. And for Carolyn Conda, she's got 2 more chances to make this pass here on Nick Schaefer for 2nd.
At what point does she try and bring out that aggression that the team is trying to get her to find? Can she manage to at least attempt to outbrake him in one of the corners and then, of course, try and make it stick as well? And credit to Nick. You said at times the car has looked like he's hustling it pretty hard, but, I mean, he's been holding off what is a driver that's either clearly at least on pace, if not potentially quicker.
I think she is faster if Carolyn could get by, but Nick's defense has been stout, and he really hasn't had to go super defensive either. His pace has been good enough that into the passing zones, he's not really been under threat. Carolyn is so good through this section of track. We saw that from trackside, Joe, earlier in the weekend, just how committed she is through the high-speed stuff, up over all those curbs. Snatches a little bit of opposite lock.
So that's Evan Hinkle sounding like he had a bit of a problem somewhere on the track, but continues on. Carolyn just doesn't get the exit she needs in the meantime. So white flag going to be presented to Ian Porter, this time by the line. Nick Schaefer continuing to do everything he needs to do. Got to watch out for some of those exit curbs for sure, as Carolyn took a lot out of South Bend that gave us a bit of a scare here in the booth.
Yeah, it certainly did. And to my point about Schaefer, he's good where it counts, right? Leading onto the long straightaways, he's able to build enough of a gap that he's not under threat at the end of them into the braking zone. White flag waves. Ian Porter, 1 lap to go as he looks for win number 6 of the season.
And let's not forget about Matt Joffe. He is not out of the woods. Michael Clark is right behind him by about half a second. If he gets a good lap, he could try and bounce back from yesterday's poor race and get himself a win. We'll see what he can do there, or if it's not quite in the cards. Still, a 2nd place will be another good collection of points for him. Is that bright orange and white machine that says Rafa Racing on the side? That is Ian Porter. And we've definitely gotten some shots of him, but there just really hasn't been a whole lot to talk about other than the impressive speed he's been showing.
His pace has been outstanding, no question about it. He's been running in the low 54s. He's backed that pace up a little bit over the last few laps now that he's got a lead of nearly 5 seconds. No reason to push, no reason to take undue risk. Still very much in his rhythm, and he's about a half a lap away from another race win.
Coming up towards the breaking of the Oak Tree. Still looks like Carolyn needs to make up some room to attempt to pass for that 2nd place. We'll keep an eye on it here at the last little stretch as they're now onto the back straight on Madison Avenue. And she did get a pretty good run here. She's closing in.
Here she comes, sitting in that slipstream. working on Nick Schaefer. Nick, the newcomer, doing such a good job to hold off Carolyn over the course of this weekend. It's cut and paste from what we saw yesterday. Looks like he's got all the answers to her riddle, though, at this point, is Ian Porter now just a couple of corners away from win number 6.
Amazing. This is only race 8, and he is going to be collecting 3/4 of the victories this season down the main straight, and it is going to be another win for the number 86 of Ian Porter.
Now we check in on that battle for the second spot. Schaefer got a good run out of Hogpen and will hold off Conda at the line by 0.3 of a second. How about the fight in the Masters class? Joffe over Clark by 0.4 of a second. Then it's Pelichewski who comes across behind Lonnie Unser. Lonnie did make that pass for out-of-class position there, just for overall on the final lap. Pelichewski, though, will take the final step of the podium in Masters.
And let's talk about the overall here for Kelly Moss. I'm pretty sure that they have 5 of the top 10 here, if I'm seeing this correctly. This might be actually 4. But Joffe, Clark, Unser, Pelichewski, Golan, all racing under that banner. This is going to be one to celebrate for that team.
Huge result for them, no question about it. What a great result for them. And, that's something that can give them some momentum looking ahead to the rest of the season with upcoming races at Watkins Glen in just a couple of weeks, Road America, and then at Sonoma. Great boost, wind in the sails of that squad for sure.
Looks like that is everybody across the line. So let's go through our results of today's race. Last of the weekend for the Caymans. That sees Ian Porter take another victory back-to-back this weekend for him. Nick Schaefer, similar situation. In fact, I think it's the same podium we had yesterday with him in second place and Carolyn Conda coming home in third. Matt Joffe, 4th overall, but finds himself with a win in Masters. Michael Clark came home behind him. Great rebound from the 17. And Lonnie Unser is going to be 6th overall, 4th in class. Pelichewski gets 2 podiums in the weekend, one of them a win. This time it's going to be 3rd place. Jason Golan just outside of that podium in Masters, 4th in class, 8th, with Roland Crines finishing 9th. That's a good rebound from him, too, as he had a bad race yesterday. And then Chris Hutter rounds out your top 10, Ryan.
Bill Finnick finishes 11th overall, 6th in class, just ahead of the hometown guy, Woody Witchard. Evan Hinkle, tough day today. Tough day yesterday, too, with the penalty that came in post-race for him that cost him a better result overall. Evan, I think, super impressive, though, here this weekend, all things considered, in his debut for the season. He comes home 13th. Rob Trollinger, Joe Rizzo bouncing back from an early issue. He comes home in the 15th spot. Dan Ammon, 16th. Tom Kopczynski, 17th. Paige Morales, who had a hit yesterday, kept it clean here today. Her learning continues in her first season of racing at this level. 17th, make that 18th overall, 7th in class. Thomas Bigany, 19th. Joseph Petkus in 20th. And then at the bottom of the order, a couple of drivers that had a bad day today. Jim Johnson did not finish, nor did Sean McCaig, Alan Scalzo, or Rafa Martinez. Just the one yellow in this race. All in all, a fairly clean affair. And at the end of it, winning once again in the Pro-Am class, Ian Porter, heading Nick Schaefer and Carolyn Conda. They are the podium in the Pro-Am class. And then in the Masters division, it's Matt Joffe with his 2nd win of the season, ahead of Michael Clark. And Bill Pelichewski rounds out the podium in 3rd. Well, speaking of podiums, we will have your podium celebration coming up in just a moment. If you like what you saw, though, just a reminder that up next on the calendar, first weekend in July, the 5th through the 7th, Watkins Glen International Raceway, the next round of the championship. We'll have full live coverage for you here on the same streaming channels for you for those races there. A couple of races for the Caymans, a couple for the Cup cars, and it should be a fun one in one of the finest venues and most historical road racing venues in North American motorsports. Podium celebrations coming up in just a few moments. Joe Peak will be down there, so stick around. Back with more after these messages.
It's hard to contain your excitement when you get something you've really wanted.
WeatherTech.
Like the gold standard in automotive protection, WeatherTech floor liners. With deep sculpted channels and laser measured for total protection in the front, back, and even up the sides.
Dad, you're going viral.
What? WeatherTech me.
So don't be shy, enjoy.
WeatherTech.
Order your premium American-made products at WeatherTech.com. It's hard to contain your excitement when you get something you've really wanted.
WeatherTech.
Like the gold standard in automotive protection, WeatherTech floor liners. With deep sculpted channels and laser measured for total protection in the front, back, and even up the sides.
Dad, you're going viral.
What? WeatherTech me.
So don't be shy, enjoy.
WeatherTech.
Order your premium American-made products at WeatherTech.com. It's hard to contain your excitement when you get something you've really wanted.
It's time for podium ceremonies for the second race of the weekend for the Caymans. Starting with the Cayman Masters, finishing third in the number 62, Bill Pelichowski. Finishing P2, redemption for the number 17 today, it's Michael Clark. And coming around for his second victory of the season, finishing first, it's the number 9 of Matt Joffe. Matt, congratulations. It looked like Michael was keeping you honest most of that race, especially after that yellow. Did he make you nervous at all?
Yeah, he was closing in pretty good the last 4 or 5 laps, so I just kept my head down, tried to keep it clean and get it home.
It's been a bit since we've seen you on the top step of the podium. Can you carry this on? Is the momentum with you?
Absolutely.
All right. I like that. Short and sweet. Confidence from our winner, Matt Joffe. And now, of course, it wouldn't be a victory without spraying some champagne. That's our podium finishers for the Cayman Masters here in race number 8 for the 2024 season. A big congratulations. That now takes us to the Cayman Pro-Am. Very similar situation to what we saw yesterday, finishing third in the number 84, Carolyn Conda. Then in P2, driving the number 70, Nick Schaefer. And racking up his 6th victory of the season, driving the number 86, it's Ian Porter. Congratulations once again, Ian. This one less caution for you, but even still, you pulled out a pretty significant gap. Are you feeling comfortable around this place now?
Oh, yeah, I love it. I mean, I wouldn't say comfortable is the word because I was having a lot of fun, but I was pretty scared throughout most of the track. So comfortable wouldn't be the word. Exciting would be.
I think exciting is an apt description of this place. Heading off to Watkins Glen for the next one. Have you been preparing already for that?
Watkins Glen is probably going to be our least prepared race this season. So yeah, we're going over to 24 Hours of Spa as a team, the Rafa Racing Club, and that to me is my favorite track in the world. So I'm so super excited for that, and excited to cheer on the rest of the team on the European side.
Well, wish you guys a good race over there, and that was our winner, Ian Porter. And of course, for the Caymans, one last time this weekend, let's spray some champagne! Congratulations to our podium finishers in the Caymans. We'll have more racing coming up in just a bit. It's our last race of the weekend with the GT3 Cup later on this morning.